What you just heard was the amp overdriving by itself versus the same amp set to clean getting its overdrive from a pedal. And for both examples everything was exactly the same except for the two volumes on the amp. What I want to exemplify in this video is the magic of amp overdrive. We now live in a world of big pedal boards, and while there is nothing wrong with that, it seems like amp overdrive is becoming a lost art. Of course, there are many good ways and situations to get your dirt from pedals, which I will talk about later. But for now I want to keep comparing this amp's own overdrive versus getting almost all the drive from a pedal. What you notice in these first two examples is that the amp overdrive sounds grittier. It doesn't actually have more gain per se, but the frequency response is bigger and there is more high-end bite, which just makes the amp sound dirtier than the pedal. The pedal I'm using is a King of Tone, which is a great and often used circuit that's fairly transparent. But compared to what the amp can do by itself, I don't think it can hold up. But I've played riffs so far, so let's see what happens if I switch to more of a chord progression. Here the difference is less radical and this one might be more of a matter of preference. The pedal overdrive sounds a bit smoother and tighter. But one might wonder what might happen if you crank the gain up a bit more. So let's try that next. But here, the amp is the clear winner again in my book. No surprise, I'd even hail and cranked his Marshalls and didn't use a boutique overdrive to get his sound. But you might think it's not completely fair what I'm doing here. And you're right, most people don't get something like this old school Marshall to get their overdrive from a pedal. These amps are known to get their drive from the power section, which is a different sound. So let's switch to an amp that gets its overdrive from the preamp section and see how that compares. Here there is much less of an audible difference, though I can tell you that you can still feel the difference while playing. It plays easier when the amp is overdriving itself. But I'm still not being completely fair, because there are plenty of good ways to use pedals to get your dirt. Let's break it down. To make my point, I'm going to use some alcoholic drink analogies. First up, you have watering down your whiskey. You have a great amp that has some character and dirt from its own, but you only use it clean with one overdrive pedal like I've been doing here so far. And I think in most cases that's not optimal. Next you have spiking the punch. The punch is good by itself, but if you want things to get dirty, you throw some vodka in there. That's using the amp at the edge of breakup and using a pedal to push it over the edge, basically blending the two to get the best of both. And I think this is a great way to go about. Then you have mixing cocktails, which is what a lot of players these days are doing. You have multiple dirt pedals and you do gain staging and mixing to get different gain levels and sounds. And that way you get a lot more variety, nothing wrong with that at all. And last up you have drinking it neat, having the amp overdrive by itself and using the volume knobs on your guitar for cleanup. That's what I've been doing with both amps in these comparisons when not using a pedal. But with a Marshall like this, you'll also have to get an attenuator, or else you get drinking from the fire hose, which ain't fun for no one these days. One is not better than the other, and which one works best depends on what you're doing. Just make sure you don't water down your whiskey and try an amp that can break up by itself. For a long time I never experienced that glory, but once I did it felt like magic. It's not for every situation, but it's awesome. So how do you go about getting your overdrive? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and I'll see you next time.